have here the coffee, which is nowadays an ordinary item in the Philippines, but we don't, not many people really know that at one time in 1800s, the Philippines was one of the major coffee producer in the world. I think in one time it was the only coffee producer for the whole world. So that's the history behind the coffee from Batangas. And this Abel Iloco, for example, this is from the Ilocos region, and the people from Ilocos has been doing this for hundreds of years. And again, not many people know that the weaving of Abel has been going on since 1500s, and the product was actually used to trade with China, between Ilocos and China. So that's the history behind the item here. And we have the Sungka, which is a very popular game up to now among particular women and children. But it's been with us since hundreds of years ago. And of course we have the bamboo musical instruments. We actually have even bamboo flutes, and we have actually a very big organ that's made of bamboo, the bamboo organ in Las Piñas, organ that's made of bamboo. And that originated from the different tribes in the Philippines using bamboo for musical instruments. And we have an interesting one, for example, these stamps. Of course, everybody know that we've been using stamps since the Spanish period, but not many people know that the Philippines had their first stamp 14 years after the first stamp in England.
Yeah.
So that's 14 years. Yeah, 14 years after that, the Philippines had their first stamp. So we were not far behind from the development then, especially regards to postage. And coins, everybody know that we've been using coins since even before the Spanish time. It's been trading with the surrounding countries in gold and silver, and a lot of other historical things. But these ones are special to me. This barrow actually is my grandmother's. It's probably almost, or even not even, probably almost 100 years old now, or even probably close to that. And this is my dad's, the barong one, which is hand embroidered, and that's probably more than 50 years old.
The concept behind this, of course, is to celebrate our sister cities, and one of them is actually the League of Cities in the Philippines. Now, as I was saying, it's very easy to have because of our huge numbers in Blacktown, say 30 or 40,000 Filipinos. So we say to which sister city would you like? They would say Marikina, Barangay, Iligan, Leyte, Dumaguete, all these sort of things, you know. So we got to as the archipelago, so we said, the best way of going about this. We actually had spoken to the ambassador. We had actually spoke to the ambassador a number of years ago. The ambassador said, why don't you form an association with the League of Cities, which is the peak body of the cities in the Philippines. And through them, anybody wanted any information about Australia, they would go to their League of Cities. If we want any information about the Philippines, we can go to their League of Cities. They're the peak body. Every major city in the Philippines belongs to the League of Cities. So the council decided a number of years ago to go that way. We actually travelled to the Philippines, and Tess, Miss Reyes, came with us, and Mandaluyong. Yeah, the mayor of Mandaluyong. Yeah, he was the president of the League of Cities, and we sat down and then done an agreement, you know. And from that now, how do we progress these things? That's where we're at now. How to progress that? We have some marvelous concepts of Blacktown. They've got local government. In the Philippines, in certain areas, they're only developing the structure of local governments, and they have problems. Possibly they don't have the resources to facilitate. So what they can actually contact Blacktown when they want to talk about environment, recycling, regenesis, and so forth, and we can actually give them at no cost information on that sort of thing. We would always promote, of course, people, if you want to go for a holiday, go to the Philippines. That in itself is a big industry. If anyone wants to go from the Philippines, come to Blacktown, and so on. So So it's important that we involve more Filipino or Australian speaking people in this thing to promote it. Because the concept is good. The concept is good and what it goes. We had a program as Tess knows called Regenesis. That talks about how you replace trees and your programs for replacing trees. And as you know, a lot of the natural disasters in the Philippines was caused by indiscriminate logging and so forth, and diluting the countryside of vegetation. So when the rains come, and the rains have been coming forever, but when they come now, there's nothing to stop the flow. And as you know, in the last major floods in the Ligan and in Mindanao, this was caused by logging in the high country, but actually left them. Regenesis actually talks about how we can actually get the poor people. We can't blame the poor people for actually taking the logs, because they use that for fire, they use that for warmth, they use that for cooking. But you can have a low-cost industry replanting those trees in there, and major companies could take that up as part of their offset by replanting trees in the Philippines. Because whenever you plant a tree in this world, it affects us all. Sort of thing. And so you can actually get villages to make a living out of regeneration. Getting villagers making money out of regeneration. And they're going to know what it's all about. The younger generation who adapt a lot easier to us, they're going to know what it's about.
Yes.
But that's a great concept. That's one thing that Blacktown actually initiated. Now we're going to try and initiate that in the Philippines.
That's one project that we are exploring, because that's very much useful and very applicable to the Philippines, even to the major cities in the Philippines. That's very much applicable.
Yeah.
So this display will be here in Max Weber Library in Blacktown from yesterday, that's 7th of June, to 21 of June for 2 weeks. So everybody's invited, not only the Filipinos who want to know more about the history of the Philippines, but our friends and family here in Blacktown and beyond Blacktown.